they mourn him.
Y'all, so we got another one, and we're gonna get right into this whole sequel of a lot of outrage going on in the world regarding the Charlie Kirk death. Since his death, there's been a lot of rhetoric with the dominant society on the political and racial hypocrisy that we're seeing. And they're trying to really weaponize their morality and basically saying that, when it's, them, they can do it. Everybody turns a blind eye. He pretty much represents the white supremacist bigot viewpoints and their true codified nature and culture. And he's really the representative, for in the crash out for the white supremacists. And so they don't really want to speak out against anything negative that he's saying because, they low key agree with it and they side with him. And all the rhetoric that we've been seeing is nothing but him bashing black people. So a lot of stuff people aren't really agreeing with, and a lot of white people are not really agreeing with the things he did either. So let's get into Aries Spears, and we got Amanda Shields and Dio Hugley. And this is for informational and educational purposes only. We do not own the rights to this, as we're just reacting to it. So without no further, let's get into this, man. And again, y'all give me y'all opinions and y'all thoughts on Aries Spears' sentiment on this, because right now people seems to have selective vision, selective morality right now, and outrage. There's a ton of it happening to black people. It happens and it goes on every day. There's never any international things. It's never any international outrage and never any international public announcements.
Family. And like I said, even though I didn't agree with some of the things he said, I agreed with some of the things he said. But he should have been able to voice his opinion without death being his ending, murder. We got to do better as a society, man. We have to be able to communicate how we feel without disagreements leading to murder. And this is the last thing I'm going to touch on. The Ukrainian girl that was heinously, brutally murdered by the brother. That mother should be buried under the jail, because that was gross. It was sick. It was unwarranted. It was uncalled for, and it was effed up. But again, everybody gets caught in their feelings, and we turning this into a racial thing when it shouldn't be that. This is about the murder of a human being. Let's keep it on a human level and not make it about race, because that is a slippery slope. I saw with somebody on AI, they created an AI where they said, had this been a black woman, and they showed a picture where she was replaced by a black woman, and the surrounding people who were originally around her were black, were now white. And the caption read, had this been a black woman, nothing of Charlotte would be left standing. Everything would be destroyed. To which my reply was, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, recovered. If you know, you know. Now you make of that what you will, but do the history, do the homework, and you will understand my quote. But again, may she rest in peace. It was tragic. It was horrible. It was effed up. And that dude who did that should be punished to the 10th degree. Love. Yo, what up? It's your boy Aries Spears here. Listen, man.
Man, so Aries Spears is out here, man, tap dancing it up, ain't he, y'all? But it was no outrage for um, a lot of our street deaths and brothers and sisters getting shot down like dolls on a daily basis. It's crazy.
Kinds of people on the conservative right talk about empathy, and they talked about empathy as if it was a pariah, empathy as if it was a moral failing, and they referred to empathy as a weakness. And it's interesting that they would call themselves Christian and be anti-empathy, because that is a core tenet of Christianity. So that is being a Christian without the empathy is like being a sushi chef without the fish. But empathy is apparently a weakness to a lot of people, and you never know. But I have always believed and hold this now, that empathy is quintessentially human. Human. It is the core of humanity. It certainly is the core of Christianity, if you call yourself Christ-like. But how is it that you can despise empathy, that you think it is a weakness, that you think that people are susceptible to it, like it's the cold or the flu, and that you despise empathy, but would like it when someone who you love is hurt or killed? We can either decide to be human and empathic, whether we relate to, like, or understand a person or not. But in America, nothing is more American. Nothing is more quintessentially who we are than violence against people we disagree with, and then having a lack of empathy when we don't relate to them, when we don't like them, when they don't look like us. I don't know how you can be a Christian nation and call yourself a Christian nation and extol the virtues of Christianity, but only be empathic when they look like you. That's not Christianity. That's not humanity. That's tribalism. I have watched any number of.
Okay, so DL Hugley out here tap dancing it up too. Man, where was all of this energy, man? Where was all of this energy, man? On a daily basis. See, like, white people have they have a fear for rebellion, or some type of, they have a guilt in their subconscious because a lot of people died and were murdered and unalived, I should say, because of things like this. And they try to, have people, overly forgive. That's their main, prerogative, is to take the pressure and the negative stigma off of them by psychological reversing tactics, try to use psychological reversing tactics to get us to feel numb to it, or to turn the other cheek to it, by pushing that agenda, to forgive and move on, and to get with God and be more religious and things like that. And so this is how we got us in slavery in the first place. So let's get into what Amanda Seals was saying, because a lot of the hypocrisy has just gotten out of hand.
Now I know y'all not in my comments talking about empathy. That can't be y'all. That can't be y'all. I know. Y'all not in my comments talking about we don't have to be like them, you guys. Who is we? Whom? Stop including me in your we. Stop. Y'all be acting like starting to be like them starts today. First of all, Charlie Kirk don't believe in empathy. He said it's a bad thing. He said it's some new age made up shit. He also said people got to be sacrificed in order to protect guns. Okay. Now, if he was saying that while fighting for reparations, I may have a little bit of empathy. But this white on white violence, he died? Damn, B. Life comes at you fast. Let's see. Did he die? Someone in the comments said he died. They ain't say he did yet. Listen. He gone? Wow. That's a tough break, bruh. That's a tough break. What did he think was going to happen when he got up there telling all these people secrets? What did he think was going to happen? That man said, I'm going to tell y'all all the tea. That was like the other day. That was like the other day. But that man was on there and said, this person was with Epstein and that person. And I promise you, hold on, let me block this fool. All of that was probably over some capitalist bullshit. Like they didn't give him a job that he wanted or something. That's it. So, what are y'all talking about? Oh, that was Ben Shapiro doing that? Damn. I don't even, to be very honest, they're all the same person to me. Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, they're all the same person to me. I don't. Well, dang. They're all the same person to me.
It's all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up new age term that does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time. Here's Cut 60. It's all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up new age.
So this is all the rhetoric they've been spewing, man. A lot of people upset because of this. So Amanda's not done.
Now I know. You know, maybe I'm just so calloused by how many actual leaders and good people have been assassinated by state-sanctioned violence for the many years that we have been on this earth, that I just can't relate to y'all who are like, well, you know, you don't have to agree with the way someone lives to not agree with them being murdered. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Because especially if their extermination was literally done in the exact context within which they said others should die. They had no problem with other lives being taken by gun violence. None. And so I do have to agree with how you live in order to care about how you died. I don't know why you don't. You know, maybe I'm just so
Yeah, man, a lot of people are not really having any empathy for this guy.
let me tell y'all what y'all sound like. When I was interviewed by Shannon Sharp, they cut a part of the interview out. And the part of the interview that they cut out was he asked me about O.J. Simpson, who had just passed away. And he said that, I guess one of the members of Nicole Brown Simpson's family had like said something disparaging about O.J. Simpson. And, you know, I guess he was asking me like what I felt about that. And I say, you know, you're going to feel how you feel. Just like when Queen Elizabeth passed away, folks who have, you know, lived in her colonies and who are descendants and have experienced British colonization was like, ding, zong, the witch is dead, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he was like, oh yeah, you know, I would never. I was like, so let me just get this straight. If you went back in time to attend the funeral of your ancestor's slave master, you telling me that you would shed a tear, that you would be silent, and that you would hold respect and space for them? Well, you know, I was raised, you know, I was just raised to respect the dead. That's how y'all sound. Y'all sound like folks who would bring flowers to Massa's funeral.
Support a real one.
Yeah, man. So a lot of things that she's saying is spot on. Spot on. So she's really
As of today, the fastest agenda has moved a step forward. And so your only assignment is to also move a step forward.
So yeah. Let's get into Charlie and a lot of his sentiment of his interviews that are now surfacing, you know, because the internet, y'all, we know is undefeated.
Remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian, see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman. I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? Thomas Sowell and Justice Clarence Thomas are far better black role models to celebrate than Martin Luther King, period. End of story. This guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Play cut 52. I'm going to trust the Lord. I know what we're saying is true. I was disappointed because I said, listen, guys, you could hate what I'm doing. You could criticize it. I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist. Okay? I live what I believe. No. What do I do? I get
Man. So again, man, there it is. A lot of his racist undertones a lot of his racial bluntness is definitely overt. And so yeah. This is
Charlie
what
Kirk
we
has
get.
no problem putting his true beliefs about anyone who isn't a white, rabid conservative like him on full display.
If you're going to remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian, see a black.
So yeah, we seen all of the rhetoric, man. We seen it all, man. We seen all the selective injustices, man. And it's funny how, you know, D.L. Hugley posted this, right? And he was the same exact person basically defending him, advocating for his racism. And they try to talk in very codified terms so that we don't really notice it. And with ambiguity, right? And with ambiguity, you can't really, they speak in broad terms so that you can't really understand what they're saying. And it's like a second language, right? And that's basically exactly what white supremacists is about. And white supremacy is about, is to get on code and get codified. So he represented their true morals and their political views. And his whole platform was based off of speaking in a subliminal way to denounce all black credibility. And by him talking about Dr. King was a smooth way of him doing so. And so he took subtle jabs that he didn't think a lot of people would notice. So let's get into this, man. And the hypocrisy with D.L. Hugley is even more entertaining. It's even more comical because he was just talking about, you know, how we should have morality and, you know, universal a moral compass.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have.
See what I'm saying? And so this is coming from D.L. Hugley. He reposted this on his wall. And then he turns around and go ahead and advocating for just having a generalized view on deaths without holding, you know, the white bigots accountable in the racist rhetoric by way of politics, which is bloodshed without warfare without bloodshed, and it's controlled chaos. So by him being molded and groomed to be one of the leaders of the United States in politics, he was a huge threat because he would put in policies in place to affect people in the real world. And he's definitely has. So he's against affirmative action, and he's definitely trying to just badmouth
a cost
Dr. King and comparing him to Clarence Thompson. And so we all know about that. We all know he's trolling and trying to be funny, but I just thought it was kind of hilarious for him to D.L. Hugley to really pretty much embrace. Let's get into it again.
Watch any number of people of all kinds of stripes, people, theologians, politicians, people who consider themselves activists, all kinds of people on the conservative right talk about empathy. And they talked about empathy as if it was a pariah, empathy as if it was a moral failing. And they referred to empathy as a weakness. And it's interesting that they would call themselves Christian and be anti-empathy because that is a core tenet of Christianity. So that is being a Christian without the empathy is like being a sushi chef without the fish. But empathy is apparently a weakness to a lot of people. And you never know, but I've always believed and hold this now, that empathy is quintessentially human. Human. It is the core of humanity. It certainly is the core of Christianity, if you call yourself Christ-like. But how is it that you can despise empathy, that you think it is a weakness, that you think that people are susceptible to it, like it's the cold or the flu, and that you despise empathy, but would like it when someone who you love is hurt or killed? We can either decide to be human and empathic, whether we relate to, like, or understand a person or not. But in America, nothing is more American. Nothing is more quintessentially who we are than violence against people we disagree with, and then having a lack of empathy when we don't relate to them, when we don't like them, when they don't look like us. I don't know how you can be a Christian nation and call yourself a Christian nation and extol the virtues of Christianity, but only be empathic when they look like you. That's not Christianity. That's not humanity. That's tribalism.
Yeah, see, D.L. Hugley, I don't really know exactly where he was trying to go. So you could have taken that a few different ways. So, yeah, I mean, he brought this on himself. You know what I mean? And a lot of people feel the same way. Let's get into what he was saying, man.
To eulogize means to speak well of. And I wonder what Charlie Kirk would say about Charlie Kirk, because his death stood in stark contrast to the way he lived and the things he believed and the things he espoused. He often talked about black criminality. He often talked about the high crime rates among black people. He spent his life saying that black people basically were inferior and they were superior. Apparently, he's never met a qualified black person that didn't earn it through merit. They were all set aside in DEI. He spent his life talking about empathy and how it was necessary. He spent his life talking about the necessity of people dying for the preservation of an amendment, a piece of paper. He spent his life categorizing people and percentagizing people and slanting things to present a certain aspect of things. He died forwarding the notion that it's black people who are responsible for gun death. His last words were gang violence, but he wasn't shot. He wasn't shot. We know it was because we know who it wasn't. First off, Charlie Kirk was not assassinated. He was shot. The congressmen in Minnesota, they were assassinated because they were shot for their political views. Charlie Kirk was shot. And Charlie Kirk was shot doing the very thing he'd always done, percentagizing and blaming and minimizing and saying these things are not true. These things, his last words were gang violence. But we know who it was because we know who it wasn't. 3 words let you know they weren't black. It was Utah and at large. Now, if Charlie Kirk, we're looking at a situation with Charlie Kirk, would he say he was the victim of crime or white on white violence? Because what Charlie Kirk always talked about was how many black people kill black people. But he never talked about how many white people kill white people.
That's a fact, man.
To eulogize means to speak well of. And I wonder what Charlie Kirk would say.
That's a fact, y'all. And what he's saying is absolutely true, man. It is a big uproar. And why should we have any empathy when he did it? And that was basically how he wanted us to remember him, right? I mean, we're just going off of his logic and his philosophies. And basically, you know, I did a lot of stuff that I was agreeing with the fact that he was saying that college was a scam. And so, yes, in essential ways, he did. But like a lot of people, he would host black girls and just his whole platform was built on that. So let's play this again.
Say about Charlie Kirk, because his death stood in stark contrast to the way he lived and the things he believed and the things he espoused. He often talked about black criminality. He often talked about the high crime rates among black people. He spent his life saying that black people basically were inferior and they were superior. Apparently, he's never met a qualified black person that didn't earn it through merit. They were all set aside in DEI. He spent his life talking about empathy and how it was necessary. He spent his life talking about the necessity of people dying for the preservation of an amendment, a piece of paper. He spent his life categorizing people and percentagizing people and slanting things to present a certain aspect of things. He died forwarding the notion that it's black people who are responsible for gun death. His last words were gang violence, but he wasn't shot. He wasn't shot. We know it was because we know who it wasn't. First off, Charlie Kirk was not assassinated. He was shot. Those the congressmen in Minnesota, they were assassinated because they were shot for their political views. Charlie Kirk was shot. And Charlie Kirk was shot doing the very thing he'd always done, percentagizing and blaming and minimizing and saying these things are not true. These things, his last words were gang violence. But we know who it was because we know who it wasn't. 3 words let you know they weren't black. It was Utah and at large. Now, if Charlie Kirk, we're looking at a situation with Charlie Kirk.
Y'all, real quick, did y'all hear that? His last words and on the speech. I'm going to play this again, but I don't know if y'all heard this, but he was asked a question and he was starting to really go ham and say the black community. And then he started saying, well, what about the violence and the black communities? And before he got that out of his mouth, don't quote me exact, but he was talking about what about the violence, referring to Chicago, not talking about, again, this put in place experiment. This is why they call it the projects. It's fulfilled with mainly saturated with projects. And it's an experiment to flood your communities with drugs, guns, and crime and re-strip them off the resources and bomb their communities. So this is what an effect. This is an effect of what caused it. So y'all be very mindful in speaking which you are not ready to take, which is in terms of the tongue that you're operating, because whatever you say, you will come to you. You speak death, it'll come to you, it'll visit you, man. Whatever you say, it'll visit you. All right. You put those frequencies out there, man, and it's going to circulate back. That's exactly what happened to this guy. He kept, putting out just stereotypes and negative false narratives and just bad talking points, man, when he had a good upbringing. He had a college tuition. Let's go.
Would he say he was the victim of crime or white on white violence? Because what Charlie Kirk always talked about was how many black people killed black people. But he never talked about how many white people killed white people. To eulogize means to speak well of. And I wonder what Charlie Kirk would say about Charlie Kirk, because his death stood in stark contrast to the way he lived and the things he believed and the things he espoused. He often talked about black criminality. He often talked about the high crime rates among black people. He spent his life saying that black people basically were inferior and they were superior. Apparently, he's never met a qualified black person that didn't earn it through merit. They were all set aside as a DEI. He spent his life talking about empathy and how it was necessary. He spent his life talking about the necessity of people dying for the preservation of an amendment, a piece of paper. He spent his life categorizing people and percentagizing people and slanting things to present a certain aspect of things. He died forwarding the notion that it's black people who are responsible for gun death. His last words were gang violence, but he wasn't shot. He wasn't shot. We know it was because we know who it wasn't. First off, Charlie Kirk was not assassinated. He was shot. The congressmen in Minnesota, they were assassinated because they were shot for their political views. Charlie Kirk was shot. And Charlie Kirk was shot doing the very thing he'd always done, percentagizing and blaming and minimizing and saying these things are not true. These things, his last words were gang violence. But we know who it was because we know who it wasn't. 3 words let you know they weren't black. It was Utah and at large. Now, if Charlie Kirk, we're looking at a situation with Charlie Kirk, would he say he was the victim of crime or white on white violence? Because what Charlie Kirk always talked about was how many black people killed black people. But he never talked about how many white people killed white people.
All right.
To eulogize means to speak well of.
So we're going to go to a lot of what the brother Tariq Nasheed was saying. And he made his fame, he built his fame off of the denigration of Black people, and this deliberately ignored the generational inheritance that he received, right? And land alone, I don't know if y'all we know this, right? A land alone puts you in a different tax bracket economically, socioeconomic status. It already, just by land and life insurance that they inherited from their grandparents, I mean, assets, things like that already put you at a head start at a big discrepancy. And the wealth gap has been disproportionately maldistributed for a long time, for centuries. And so that's what he's not talking about. That's why a lot of people wasn't really agreeing with him. And a lot of people were happy, including his own people. And it's crazy how it turned out. Whatever you speak will visit you. You speak death, death will visit you.
The high road hell. That's emotional manipulation. No. You're not going to weaponize morality against us, and you're sitting up here propping up this person who was one of the main oppressors. See, that high road talk, that's a tool of control, ladies and gentlemen. Telling Black people to be better or show grace, that's a little psychological tactic to silence justified frustration. You know, it's a demand that we uphold the moral standard, while the white supremacists can be as vile as they want to be without any consequences. No. We don't do that. And again, his death is being politicized, just like he did others. Charlie Kirk politicized every major Black death. He used them to promote law and order, justified authoritarian policies. He tried to erase the systematic issues behind them. So his death is political too. So the irony is not lost. See, they hate that this irony is whooping that ass. And it's interesting. Let me talk to the white people. I know there's a lot of white people in here. Let me talk to you. Because now I'm looking at a lot of the white people who are showing all of this outpouring. And I saw some white people in Utah crying. I'm like, Lord. Oh, they felt like they took an L, especially some of these moderates, some of these white people who kind of play the middle. Oh, I'm a moderate. I love everybody. But they low-key support those racist views. I want y'all to understand something. Some of these moderate white people who act all neutral and, oh, no, I don't believe in racism. Oh, we all got to get together and break bread, brother, and all that stuff. Let me tell you something. A lot of them are falling out and they feel a certain way about Charlie Kirk, because I'm like, again, Charlie Kirk ain't really known for anything else except his racist ass views. He ain't known for nothing else. What the hell else is he known for? You understand? When he goes to these college campuses, what does the conversation always go to? Every clip I see, you're talking to a bunch of white people, then the conversation is about how Black folks ain't shit. How Black people are the problem. Black people we're criminals. I mean, that's his platform. The man's last words was him denigrating Black people. He started to go in on us in Utah. Somebody asked him about mass shootings, and he was like, well, do we count the gang violence? And then pow, them hot things came through. This man went to the grave denigrating Black people. He went to the grave with our names in his mouth. Because, yeah, when you talk about gang violence, that's a euphemism for Black. That's us. That's a euphemism for us. You see? So that man took his anti-Black racism to the grave with him. But the thing is, a lot of these so-called moderate white people who are kind of feeling a certain way about Charlie Kirk, they really feel a certain way. They really feel bad about it. Why? Because there's a shared racial interest and worldview with these people. See, a lot of them, you can't speak as bluntly as Charlie Kirk did. So a lot of these white moderates, you will share the same racial assumptions and anxieties about maintaining your privilege. And his death, it feels personal to them because he was voicing things that they quietly believed but they avoid saying it out loud. See, that's what they needed him for. See, he was kind of their crash out. Sometimes they need a crash out who would do the dirty work for them, and that was his thing. His thing was he was the crash out guy. He's going to spit that real white supremacist truth, and white society gets to play the good cop, bad cop dynamic with him. See, the white moderates, they play this role of the reasonable face of whiteness while allowing Charlie Kirk to play the bad cop. So he'll take the heat. He'll say the loud part out loud, the loud part's loud, and he gives the white moderates this plausible deniability. So now that he's gone, see, they feel like they lost a tool that allowed them to mask their own complicity to white supremacy. So a lot of them, they feel like they've lost a political shield. See, his rhetoric was a protective buffer. See, he absorbed the backlash from the black communities and the progressives, while the moderates kept their little neutral reputation intact. So his absence, it forces them closer to the front lines now. So yeah, you ain't got that buffer. He was a very good buffer for them. And they would invest in his platform. He wasn't just a rogue loudmouth. You know, he was funded. They funded this guy. And white moderates, they might not have openly supported him, but some of them low-key donate to these guys. They donate to the networks and to his think tanks. So his death, that threatens those investments and the machinery that allowed them to quietly back his agenda. And a lot of these moderates, they feel like they've lost control of extremism. See, Kirk was a controlled crash out artist. He was controlled. He wasn't like Richard Spencer went over the top.
So yeah, man, a lot of the Brother Tariq Nasheed, man, was dropping, man, is some truth. But we're gonna get into a little bit what Aries Spears was saying, basically trying to backpedal and double down on defending himself, because he had no excuse on justifying the racist undertone, the racist rhetoric, and the policies that he was willing to put out. Meanwhile, denigrating black people. So Aries Spears didn't really have an excuse to really justify his excuses in his interviews. Talking about if black people should be qualified and questioned everywhere you see them, things like that. That's no excuse for that. So Aries Spears is now, nobody's taking Aries Spears serious. I mean, he already got slapped in his face on live on his interview during the podcast before, so he don't really even know how to defend himself. The man is dusty. He wears the same thing, and it's crazy because nobody really takes him serious to a degree, but it's like he does have a major platform because he is funny.
Politically savvy dude on the planet. And I believe a true form of intelligence is admitting when you're not that guy. So you ask others to educate you or fill you in. I want to know, why is it that whenever tragedy strikes this country, everybody on the right goes with the same bullshit narrative, which is it's the left, it's the left, it's the liberals. So the liberals are the only fucked up people in this country. The liberals are the only ones who have been dirty and foul when it comes to politics. The right are 100% innocent. The right never owned slaves. The right never have ever had people in political positions of power and authority, judges, lawyers, politicians that have done black people dirty. It's only been the left. The right are 100% innocent, and it's only been the left. If I'm wrong, educate me. Otherwise, what is this bullshit fucking narrative that people on the right make it seem like the right have been angels and the left are the only ones? Please explain this to me. Yo, what up? It's your boy Aries Spears here. Hey, listen, I need somebody to explain something to me, because I've always admitted I am not the most politically savvy dude on the planet. And I believe a true form of intelligence is admitting when you're not that guy. So you ask others to educate you or fill you in.
Hold on. So why did you speak on it if it's something that you have no idea of what you're knowledgeable on? That don't make any sense. And Aries Spears is basically saying that because he was almost on the verge of getting canceled because he didn't like the fact that he was out there on the skit touching on little boy. That's why you mad. It's because a lot of people didn't like that. And you was out here just taking and shaking change for a little piece of change. And you are supposedly a B-list celebrity, I guess. And he did that skit with no problem over sexualizing a child. And they was talking about canceling, and he was on the verge of being canceled. He had to come out and speak about it. But he's always getting himself into a mess, and his hypocrisy doesn't really align with anything. He doesn't really have any straight and narrow core underlying definition of himself. He just kind of goes with the flow and just kind of spews something, whatever comes to his mind. If whatever's on the topic, whatever's trending, he tends to just jump on it. But Aries spirits don't truly have any things that he stand for morally.
I want to know, why is it that whenever tragedy strikes this country, everybody on the right goes with the same bullshit narrative, which is it's the left, it's the left, it's the liberals. So the liberals are the only fucked up people in this country. The liberals are the only ones who have been dirty and foul when it comes to politics. The right are 100% innocent. The right never owned slaves. The right never ever had people in political positions of power and authority, judges, lawyers, politicians that have done black people dirty. It's only been the left. The right are 100% innocent, and it's only been the left. If I'm wrong, educate me. Otherwise, what is this bullshit fucking narrative that people on the right make?
Man, so we ain't gonna take that, cat, man. Look, a lot of people are just trying to think up random things and stick it on the wall and just mention random George. And look, he mentioned how George Floyd, basically shouldn't have any type of empathy at all. He believes in sympathy and things like that, and denouncing the character of George Floyd and that whole catastrophe when he was being kneeled on like that. He was just talking just hateful speech, and it was nobody is going to vote for you or even side with you on a moral level. And a lot of whites are even not really feeling them. So the fact that he got killed by a white guy, it makes them really angry. And by him going to these speeches at campuses, it was challenging the white power structure, the powers that be. So we're going to get into this is the alleged shooter, right? And he was seen in one of these back doors in the hallways on one of the staircases. Obviously, he was on the roof, and it was 200 feet away. I guess the shot was, at least 200 feet away. They're estimating. So we don't have any information as far as the gun and all of that stuff. But this is a reaction channel. So we're just, reviewing exactly the suspect, and that's really burning them right there. That's really. So look, here is the guy right here. Here's the suspect. And he has an American flag on his chest. And that really, really, really makes them angry to the point where they don't know what to do. You can't blame it on the black guy. And then he was abetted by Kirk going in on Chicago and not addressing, again, the systematic white supremacy in the country. That was already in bad faith. A lot of people wasn't feeling that. So, the people that look like him, that has racist views, that are bigots, are always go on side with his policies, no matter what he said, no matter what he did, without holding them accountable. The main object is to uphold white supremacy and talking in big and broad, ambiguous terms by the brother, like I said, Dr. Claude Anderson talked about, and keep them blind, keep them completely withdrawn from what exactly what's going on, and to keep them indoctrinated. That's the main thing. And the fact that they have a lot of people who look like them are taking them out. They even had an assassin that tried to take out Trump that looks like them. See, they didn't like that. And again, the numbers are already dwindling. So that's already like a thorn in the side of them. See, that hits them in their ass. And nobody was expecting it because he was a growing prospect, going to be Senate. And he actually put policies in place to undermine and affect people in general. So people wasn't feeling that when you're starting to be hitting people in the pocket like that. You're being brash and blunt and unapologetic about your white privilege and things like that. And he was denouncing, his white privilege and how he was being very in denial about it and very insensitive towards the disparities between ethnic groups, especially in America. And by denouncing that and being real off-putting about that, you're going to really rub a lot of people the wrong way. So this is the suspect. It's the suspect, y'all. So we're not even going to play that. Y'all check that out. So let me know what y'all think about this, man. A lot of people had different sentiments and perspectives on this. Bottom line is, it ain't rocket science, man. It's just right versus wrong, good versus bad. And obviously in this situation, it was white on white crime. And why don't you talk about the white on white crime that goes on? A lot of these mass, shootings come from the white community. Okay. And the average person walking around would not even suspect in their mind, in their mentality, any typical white guy from any age, it's a big shocker. Oh, it's a big catastrophe. It's an international announcement that needs to be made, and they prioritize it. But again, we have never really had a safety reform bill for Black people who are the natives of this country. Bottom line. So these guys are just technically tethers, and they really mad, and that's just a real thorn in their ass about it. So it's just about justice having righteous and morality about it. And, they're playing rocket science. So let me know what y'all think about this, man. I definitely, now I see what D.L. Hugley's saying now. It's definitely a lot clear. And I definitely agree with that. Aries Spirits, man, he just kind of all over the place talking about how we need to have some empathy. But the guy who actually died, his philosophy and his ideas and viewpoints was anti-empathy. So how would you gonna have empathy for a guy who doesn't believe in it? It's just crazy to me, man. Shout out to Amanda Seals. I had the same sentiment as her. She shared, man. Definitely righteous, good people when they have good intentions on policies that helps and benefits foundational Black Americans and other groups. Secondarily, is what it should be, because we have built this country from the soil, blood, sweat, and tears. And it's always hostile for other groups, especially tethers. Now, not saying all groups, but tethers, meaning the people who come over here and just undermine us and disrespect us, be hostile towards us. And we are the people who build the canals, the railroads, the buildings, the industrial systems, the streets. We built the homes. We built everything, right? So let me know what y'all think about this, man. And that's the thing that we like to talk about that the people don't like to talk about. And this is the true, we are the true backbone of America. We built it from scratch, and it needs to be honored and respected. We need to be revered as such. So, that's the way we rocking, man. And a lot of people just they don't have this proper education or history of this country. And Aries Spears just made his money off of mockery, being the comedy relief and not really focusing on the true aspects of which this country was built off of. It was built off of slavery. It was built off of capitalism. It was bombed. It was colonized. People were raped. It was pillaged. It was genocided, right? These are the things that truly has happened, and it still goes on to this day, okay? Genocide is a real thing. They plague out the indigenous native people, the true native people who are foundational Black Americans. And it happens through what? Real estate, rent, right? And that's the genocide. That's the full makeup of white supremacy. And they try to, continuously perpetuate it. And he was definitely one of the puppeteers of the powers that be, the white supremacists. So they really took a large L on this, and they don't know how to act. They don't know how to react. They don't know how to feel about this. And this is forever going to set a precedent. This is going to set an actual tone for them and how they're going to move forward from here, because they don't know how to really say things without being, ridiculed or potentially unalived. Because this guy was big on exercising his Second Amendment right? So he got killed for the very exact thing of which he believed in and which he stood for, and which he was very broad and very brash about, very blunt about it. And he was very defiant on how, there is no privilege and it's all an illusion and everybody has the same exact start. Everybody's exactly has the same exact, background and walk of life. No. And he was actually comparing and arguing with a young Black girl who was, this guy was 6'5", all right? This young Black girl was maybe 5'2", and he's talking about, what can't you do that I can do? Well, a lot, right? I mean, he's a man. And so he was basically comparing apples and oranges, just babbling and making a lot of no sense, just kind of word salad all over the place. But his main sentiment was denouncing, and it was an anti-Black rhetoric, bottom line. And and a lot of people, he was a representation of what a lot of white supremacists feel, and he was their mouthpiece for their voiceless. Okay, and so again, they don't know how to take that. And I think I showed y'all yesterday how on his actual Instagram page, it was kind of like he was making a mockery out of this, right? He was kind of making a mockery out of that Zena Zeruska. He said America will never be the same. So what did you mean by that, right? As if this is an international announcement that needs to be made. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that, man. And, whatever he spoke, he's put it into the universe. And that's the low vibrational frequency that he was on. And it actually came back to bite him in the butt. And you reap what you sow. So let me know what y'all think about this, man. And y'all opinions on what these celebrities are saying, because it's not rocket science. It's just bad against the good right now at this point, right? I mean, that's just what people are feeling. The shooter was not who they would have thought would have wanted to be, and it's not who they expected to look like. They arrested an old white man, and now they're showing again the images of a young white man, right? So they're all over the place. They are pissed. Politically, this has just changed everything for them. So let me know again, man, what y'all think about this, man. On to the next video. I appreciate y'all comments, man. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.